Hello everybody. The belt on my air compressor broke. It's probably been on there 30 to 40 years, something like that. But anyway, I also noticed that the bearings in the motor were absolutely shot. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the bearings in it. I've purchased a couple replacements to go in it. It's about $12, $13. But I figured since I was doing this, I'd go ahead and show this Harbor Freight puller that I outlined in another tool review. Just show how well it works. So I'm going to pull the bearings off this shaft. So anyway, you put your separator on, grab it behind the bearing, get the length of extensions you need there, bolt it up just like so, start cinching it up, holding it right here, and with all luck it'll just come right off. And this one is. If they're really hard and get tight, tighten it up a few times, give it a few whacks with a hammer, and then keep going at it. Looks like I'm about there. And there you go, one shot bearing. You can't tell, but it's absolutely shot. When I take the power off the motor, it just goes whoa, and it shuts completely down. It doesn't even free spin. So there's one. To do the other one, just simply loosen out your deal there. Just gonna spread this open. And I leave everything kind of loose so it'll just move around. Pinch it behind the bearing. You don't want to get it so tight behind it that you would like mar the shaft as it comes off. You just want to get it finger tight. So you might inspect that as you're going. And that looks pretty good to me. I guess I could have used some shorter ones on this side, but that's alright, this will work. Kind of lame to watch, but I figured I'd show it anyway. Probably should have this in a vise, but make it easier to deal with it. There we go. Everything's looking good. Same deal, just get on it, start wrenching it off. Wow, these things are coming off so easy, I probably could almost pull them off with my hands. I don't believe I've ever had any that came off that easy. And there's number two. I didn't bother showing taking the motor apart because they're all a little bit different anyway. But you know, inspect your centrifugals, make sure everything's clean and works. This is for the start winding, to cut it off and just allow it to use the run windings. Yeah, they're just shot. But you know, like I said, they've been in there 30 plus years. I feel lucky to get this far. I bought the compressor used. Alright, well this is a little bit too long in the way it's made. I wasn't going to be able to get it in my arbor press, except for maybe one half of it anyway. And I'm not about to drive over to my dad's and use my hydraulic press. So basically what I'm going to do is drive them on by hand. You just have to be careful when you do this. Got a block of wood sitting down to protect the shaft. Put some light 3-in-1 oil on here and just started the bearing. Just put it down like this, you know, and drove it as far as I could with a soft or a dead blow hammer like that. So now it's going on there, and now I'm just going to use a piece of aluminum tube here. You just want something that'll catch this inside race and not destroy anything else. So I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way, but I need to do this right. So here we go. It's going on there nice and easy. Looking good, feeling good. Gonna give it a couple more just for good measure. That feels like it's seated. So there's one. This one's a little bit different, meaning the shaft is smaller here, and then it goes onto the press fitting. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Just put just a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on here to act as a lubricant, and then start the bearing on. Same principle, kind of lining it up by hand. You know, this is not really the best way to do this, but if you're careful, it works and you can get your job done. And that's kind of why I'm showing it like this. You know, because not everybody's got all the tools. That one just drove on just a little bit almost too easy, but spacer's a little bit short, but I got it on there. And there we go. Those are 2 new bearings put on this. Gonna put the motor back together, stick it on, and let you hear it. I didn't bother shooting a clip of the way it was spinning down, but man, it was nasty. Alright, well, here's all the components ready to go back together. I'm gonna go ahead and show this just to show it, I guess. Like I said, all motors are a little bit different, but there's a lot of commonality between them. You'd usually have, you know, a main housing here, and then you'd have 2 end bells or bell housings on each side that support the bearings and the armature. So the first thing you do when you take them apart is always mark the orientation of where these things come apart. There's a punch mark here on the bottom of both of these, as well as the front bell. There's one right here. So that'll allow you to put it back together exactly the way it came apart. So this is a good time, you know, or when you take it apart, to inspect your contact points on your switch here. Like I said, this is a centrifugal switch, so this is a start run capacitor right here. So this will be engaged when you start it, and then once these weights throw out, it'll let this go and it'll disconnect the start windings, and then it'll only be running on the run windings, you know. So you can do your own homework on that. So anyway, this one has to go together in a specific way from the front. I'm going to bring it down in here, and usually on one end, it may be the front, it may be the back, you'll have a little spring washer or something. I've got mine down in the hole here. You just need to make sure you get all this stuff back, and that takes up the end play. So that looks pretty good right there. And you've got to get this little hook right here on the inside of that bearing to where it'll actually go down and touch on that plate. So just wiggling it in there. And now that I've got this pretty well seated, I'm going to stand it up on its end and seat that bearing down in there. Hope I don't hit the camera. And that's it. While it's up on its end, I'll go ahead and put the front bell on. This one actually has a little felt wick that runs around here. I'm going to put a few drops of oil on that. I don't think this has really ever been lubricated, so I'll give it a little bit to lubricate that shaft. Kind of the same principle here. Just going to lightly start putting this together. Not driving it all the way home yet. Reason being, we need to get all the bolts in. So just start putting them in and fishing them through. And you may have to turn things a little bit to get them in there. And this part can be tricky. Man, sometimes things are harder than what they should be. Alright, there were just tiny holes there. I just wasn't hitting the right ones. So anyway, once you get it, the halves back together, start tightening these up like in a star pattern. Just a little bit here, a little bit there to suck the housings together. And then I'll just go around it. You don't have to go crazy with these, you just want them really snug. You know, because you can strip them or break them. Okay, that sounds good. Feels good. I'm going to give it a little tap here just to kind of seat things in. And test it by hand. Wow, that feels good. I don't know if you can hear that little scrape sound. That's that centrifugal switch on the back. Perfectly normal. So at this point I just need to put my pulley back on, wire it back onto the unit. I'll spin it up without the belt on it first, just so I can listen to the motor and make sure everything sounds alright there. Well, alright, I got it sitting on here. I'm going to see what it sounds like. Reach over and plug it in. Woo, sounds good to me. Well, alright, everything's been put back together. Looks like it's going to work just fine. This is an old speed air compressor. I bought it from a guy a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, and it was probably 15 or 20 years old at that time. You know, I'm just guessing here, but, you know, I gave it a facelift. You know, it was a speed air green. You know, it's kind of this bluish color now. I did that about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I'm going to plug it in. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck.